everyone. Good morning. Happy Monday. I hope you're ready for our new book, Magic Treehouse number 31, called Warriors in Winter. So let's get started. Chapter 1 is called Way of the Eagle. Wake up, Jack. Jack opened his eyes. The light was dim outside his window. His sister Annie was standing by his bed. What's going on? He asked. I heard a weird sound outside, said Annie, and guess what I saw? What? Said Jack. An eagle, said Annie, a huge eagle. It was sitting on top of the lamppost in our yard. No way, said Jack. Yes way, said Annie. I'll bet Morgan sent him. Jack sat up in bed and he threw off his covers. I'm coming, he said. Hurry, we have to get back home before Mom and Dad get up. I'll meet you on the porch. Annie slipped out of the room. Jack climbed out of bed and he changed into jeans, sweatshirt, and sneakers. He grabbed his backpack, then he crept downstairs and went to the front porch. Annie was waiting in the chilly, damp air. Dawn was breaking. And that means dawn is when the sun starts to shine in the morning, so it means morning is coming. There, she whispered. She pointed toward the lamppost in the front of the house. An eagle was perched on top. He was dark brown except for a ring of golden brown feathers around his neck. He stared at them with piercing eyes. Oh, man, that's a golden eagle, whispered Jack. And there's that eagle on the lamppost. The eagle spread his wing and he rose into the early morning sky and flew toward the woods. Follow him, said Jack. Jack and Annie ran down the porch steps. They crossed their yard and dashed down the sidewalk after the eagle. There, said Annie, looking up. She pointed to the bird gliding above the Frog Creek woods. Jack and Annie crossed the street. They hurried between the shadowy trees until they came to the tallest oak. Whoa, said Jack. The eagle was perched on the roof of the magic treehouse. Yay, said Annie. You were right, said Jack. They climbed up the rope ladder and into the treehouse. Sunlight streamed onto the floor. It shined on two small wooden tablets. Next to the tablets was a scroll. Ooh, a message from Morgan, said Annie. She unrolled the scroll and read, Land by the Danube many years ago, find a Roman legion camp dusted with snow. A Roman legion camp, said Jack. Really? What's a legion? A legion is a unit in the ancient Roman army, said Jack. A legion had almost 6,000 warriors. The whole army had around 150,000 warriors. And, okay, I got it, said Annie. And what's the Danube? It's a river that ran along the border of the Roman Empire. That was almost 2,000 years ago. How do you know all this, said Annie. Well, my school project on the Roman army, said Jack. Remember when I made a model of the camp? And I had to explain the whole model to my class. Oh, yeah, I remember, said Annie. Rome had the best warriors in the world, said Jack. They defended the Roman Empire for over 500 years. They got it. Great, said Annie. Look, there's more here from Morgan. So she kept reading from the scroll. You must each keep a journal using tablets of wax. With a pen called a stylus, write down the facts. Oh, so this is what this is, said Jack. He grabbed one of the wooden tablets. In ancient times, people wrote on these. See? It's wood covered with wax. He picked up a pointed reed. And here's a stylus. It's like a pen with no ink. And here they are. So it's wood covered with wax. And then they'd use kind of like a little stick to dig into the wax to write. So there was more from Morgan. Write what you see, write what you feel. Do what warriors do to make your words real. How do we do what warriors do, said Jack. Roman warriors were the toughest guys on the planet. They had years of training. Maybe Morgan sent us something to give us magic skills, said Annie. Like the baseball caps we wore to the Major League Bat Boys. Like the baseball caps that we wore to be Major League Bat Boys. They looked in the shadowy corners of the treehouse. Jack saw only the Pennsylvania book that would bring them home. But there's nothing here, he said. Morgan didn't even send us a research book to help us. Don't worry, you already know a lot from your project, said Annie. Yeah, but I don't know enough, said Jack. Well, maybe Morgan wants us to learn more on our own. Here's the last verse of what she wrote. Give the silver coin to a hero in disguise. He will share with you his wisdom. Be home by moonrise. But what silver coin, said Annie. They looked around the treehouse again, and Jack did spot a black coin on the floor. It was about the size of a quarter. Maybe it's this, he said, picking it up. That doesn't look silver, though, said Annie. Well, silver can turn dark over time, said Jack. You have to polish the silver to keep it silvery. Oh, okay. Well, we can do that later. Let's go now. How can we go? There's no research book to take us to the right place. I have an idea. How about if I just point to Morgan's words? So she touched the rhyme that Morgan wrote and said, I wish we could go to a Roman legion camp on the Danube. And a cry from the eagle pierced the air. And then the wind started to blow. And the treehouse started to spin and spun faster and faster. And everything was still. Absolutely still. And here's a picture of the coin that is black, but it could be a silver coin that just turned black over time. This takes us to chapter 2, Rider on a Black Horse. I found it interesting that Jack and Annie were able to travel in time without a book. I think that might be one of the first times they did that. Rider on the Black Horse. The air was cold and bright. Brr, feels like winter, said Annie. Yeah, said Jack, shivering. He could see his breath in the frosty air. We're wearing Roman clothes, too. Too bad they're not warmer. Jack and Annie both wore wool caps with tunics and boots. Instead of a backpack, Jack had a leather pouch attached to a belt, and Annie had a belt in the pouch too. Hey, I'm dressed like a boy, she said. This should be fun. They looked out the window, and snow covered the ground. Sunlight sparkled on a frozen river. So here they are. You can see there's like a little camp or a city surrounded by a little wall, and then here they are in the treehouse. Let's see what happens. And there's their outfits that they're wearing. Oh, that frozen water must be the Danube, said Jack. An eagle cried out, and Annie leaned out the window and looked to the right. Oh, it's our eagle, she said, and that must be our Roman camp. Jack leaned out the window too, and he saw the eagle gliding toward a cluster of buildings surrounded by a high wooden fence. That's what we saw in the other picture. Oh man, this looks just like the model I made, said Jack. Yeah, and it's dusted with snow, just like in Morgan's rhyme. Let's go. Jack and Annie put their tablets and pins in their leather pouches. Jack dropped the coin into his pouch too. Then they climbed down the rope ladder. The sunlight on the snow was blindingly bright, but the air was bitter cold. Jack pulled his cape closer. The thick wool was warm and scratchy. Before we go any farther, maybe we should write something down in our journals. Good idea, said Annie. They pulled out their writing tools. Watch, said Jack. He pressed the pointed reed into the wax and he wrote a W. I got it, said Annie. But we should write small so we can fit everything in. Jack wrote winter. Then he looked at Annie writing her notes. What are you writing? I'm writing Rider on the Black Horse, she said. Where do you see that? Said Jack. Against the sun, said Annie. Jack shielded his eyes and looked at the bright horizon. There was a rider on the black horse trotting over the frozen ground between the river and the camp. He was wearing a helmet and a red cape. Oh no, thought Jack. Should we climb back in the treehouse? Hi, called Annie, waving. The rider raised his hand in greeting. So maybe that is the rider from the front of the book. I don't know yet. He trotted over to them. His face was mostly hidden by a helmet. Hail, children! Are you lost? He asked. Jack was relieved. The man's voice was friendly. No, we're not lost, said Annie. Actually, we want to visit that army camp. Have you family there? Asked the warrior. No, we just want to learn more about the Roman legion. We're keeping journals, said Annie. She held up her tablet and stylus. Indeed, said the man. You are the first children I have met that keep journals. Well, we plan to write what we see and what we feel, said Annie. Ah, young visiting scholars, said the writer. Have you questions for me? Yes, said Jack. Why is the army camped here? And there's the guy that they're meeting on the horse. He does look different from the guy on the cover. So they haven't met him yet. So why is the army here? Legion Gemina 14 is camped on the Danube to protect Rome's northern border, said the writer. That's to keep invaders from crossing the river. Well, who are the invaders? Well, anyone who wants to take away our freedom and destroy the Roman way of life. Do you know how we can get inside the camp? Give the guard the password of the day, said the writer. This is the password. Mars the victor. Like Mars the planet? Asked Annie. No, like Mars, the Roman god of war, Jack said. Oh, who's the Roman god of peace? Asked Annie. Pax is the goddess of peace, said the writer. His horse pawed the ground. Pax. I like that. Tell the guard you plan to report on the legion's hard work, said the writer. Say you are visiting scholars under the command of the Imperial Guard. Visiting scholars under the command of the Imperial Guard, Jack repeated. Got it. That sounds really official, he thought. The writer squinted at the rising sun. I must return to my station now. Farewell, friends. The rider turned his horse and galloped toward the camp. Jack and Annie watched him pass through the gateway. Let's go, he said, and they started walking toward the gate. He was nice, said Annie. Do you think he was an important officer in the Legion? No way, said Jack. He was just an ordinary army guy. He didn't have a plume on his helmet, and he didn't wear armor covered with medals like a centurion. Be glad that he wasn't a centurion. Why? What's a centurion? Asked Annie. They are super strict commanders, said Jack. They carry big sticks to whack their own men with. Oh, that's mean, said Annie. They should learn how to use their words instead. Jack laughed. You should try telling that to a centurion. As they drew close to the camp, a guard stepped out of the gatehouse, and he wore a full battle armor. He carried a spear and a red shield. Hail, said Annie. Word of the day, the guard said in a deep voice. Mars the victor, Annie answered. Jack cleared his throat and called out, We are visiting scholars under the command of the Imperial Guard. We have come to write about the camp, said Annie, and she held up her tablet and stylus. And here they are at the entrance to get inside the camp. We plan to spread the word about the Legion's hard work. The watchman lowered his spear. Welcome to Legion Gemina 14, he said, in the reign of Emperor Marcus Aurelius. Thank you, said Annie. She and Jack walked proudly past the guard. They passed through the gateway and entered into the Roman camp. And that takes us to chapter 3 called Warriors Awake. So far, so good. They're in the camp. So far, nothing dangerous has really happened. But if you know these books, I know something's probably going to happen to Jack and Annie. So tune in tomorrow to find out what happens to Jack and Annie. Bye, friends. Hope you have a great day. Love you and miss you. Oh, and happy May the 4th. Bye, friends.